Let's talk about the forwards then. I was trying to wait diligently for our resident number 9, Charlie Chuckwagon Davies, who must be excited that Zimmerman is officially on the team. That's all an inside joke for everybody that's been around for a little while. But we got Jesus Ferreira. We have Christian Pulisic. We got Gio Reyna. We got Josh Sargent. We got Timo Weah. And I think the two big surprises for most would be Jordan Morris, you already alluded to, and who we discussed a little bit earlier, another Sounders player who actually has done quite well in his minutes with the national team. Whatever you think about Jordan Morris, he did score a big goal for us against El Salvador in World Cup qualifying, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, it was in Nations League, one of the friendlies, right, to make it 1-1. I think he's another guy that's got a knack to creating space, getting some stuff done, and it's clear that Gregg trusts him. Yeah. I like J-Mo, but ever since he had his most recent knee injury, he hasn't maybe been the same J-Mo that we've seen before. And then we have Haji Wright. And that means there's no Jordy Pefok and there's no Ricardo Pepi. The Ricardo Pepi one is probably the one that perplexes me the most. Now, you and I both know, Heath, we've been around enough. I was part of 2 World Cup qualifying phases. I remember distinctly when Steve Ralston scored a very pivotal goal for us to help us qualify for the 2006 World Cup against Mexico in Columbus. We won 2-0. And Raleigh didn't end up making the team. Then I was down in Honduras when Connor Casey scored 2 goals when we beat Honduras to qualify for the 2010 World Cup. Connor Casey didn't make the team. There's always somebody that you think feels like a lock. And those 2 guys maybe didn't feel as much of a lock as Ricardo Pepi. And Ricardo Pepi is out. Yep. And there's no explanation that I can really accept right now from Gregg Berhalter that's going to make that make sense. Even though he mentioned something about, well, we have a couple guys that are in I don't even know what he said. I was not listening to him at that. I was like, I can't accept any words that are coming out of your mouth. Yeah. You're like you're Ricardo Pepi's number 1 stand. You were there early on and you rode the Ricardo Pepi train all the way up here until the end, and he's not going to be a part of it. And I'm gutted for him as a person, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Good thing is he might still be 19. I think he turns 20 soon or something like that. So he's super young, got plenty of time left. But super devastating because I think all things considered, when Gregg Berhalter says, well, Josh Sargent played in the Premier League last year or played against all these guys that were playing against, like those kinds of comments to me are just like, come on, man. Come on. Like that doesn't count. Last year doesn't count. If you're going off of now, and look, I think what we've learned from the roster reveal is 95% of the players we are arguing over whether they made it or not probably weren't going to play, right? Zach Steffen, like you said, avoid an issue in the locker room between Steffen and Turner. Turner's clearly the number 1. And so you made that part clear. He wasn't going to play. He would have been obviously year 3 if he had made the squad. And so whether that would have been an issue or a problem in the locker room, whatever, that's one thing. When you're talking about Christian Roldan, probably not going to be the go-to guy. He's probably the deepest on the depth chart in our midfield group, right? Might get called upon. Most players do throughout a World Cup, whether the team's in it or not, or third game doesn't have as much meaning or not. They get minutes. But the players we're arguing over likely aren't going to be the ones that swing us one way or another in this World Cup. Would you agree with that?
Yes, except for Ricardo Pepi. Is that where you're going?
Except for Ricardo Pepi. And my point is, Jordan Pefok, Ricardo Pepi. Look, Haji Wright came in last camp, walked around on the field, Jimmy.
But he scored a pen. Yeah.
And look, he did score a pen. And yes, does have that. Yes, this was the Christian Pulisic pick for the World Cup, where this is like the Don Garber commissioner pick, where it's like, they asked like, oh yeah, but which one? You get one, you're our leader. And he picks him. But Haji Wright's form is undeniable. But again, another guy that's come into the national team and hasn't really shown an ability to have an impact. Now, we know that Gregg doesn't want to play gegenpress. He doesn't want to press high up the field. He wants to play the old school sort of build-up play, high and wide, leaving some gaps and build through things. We saw what happened when we tried to do that in the team that we have right now. I don't think that's going to be the case. Haji Wright, again, as a player, has come into the national team and hasn't really proven anything, but I can excuse that because of the fact that he's scoring goals in the Turkish league right now. I can excuse that.
He's got 9 goals in 12 games in the league. I just want to throw that out there. He's scoring.
He is scoring.
But so is Jordy Pefok. Like you can't.
This is my point. You get to have a couple of those, right? And so when I look at it, I go, I'm not mad at you for taking Haji, right? You get that gut feeling in your stomach that goes, you know what? This is the guy. Look at the way in which he's scoring. You watch all of his goals. He's scoring a number of which ways. that are showing you that in any given circumstance, he could be the guy you go to for your last sub of the game to get you out of a bind, to get you into the knockout rounds, or get you through the round of 16, or just get you a last
that's how we
goal,
were
right?
describing Jordy Pefok, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But Jordy Pefok, same thing. When I look at Ricardo Pepi, you're telling me in 26 players, you can't find a spot for Ricardo Pepi? And maybe this was about making it easier. Like you said, maybe it was about not having the conflicts of knowing, well, this guy's probably not going to play. And is he a good locker room guy? Will he accept that role at the moment? Or can he and again, I'm speculating on a bunch of things, but the Ricardo Pepi one is probably the biggest omission for me. Actually, Zach Steffen's huge too. But the Ricardo Pepi one for me, considering he left, got into a new environment, has been scoring, has been playing well. Like that to me is one where I'm like, it feels like something bigger than this. Now, I don't think it is with Ricardo Pepi. I do think this is the one selection that Gregg was like, well, I had to look at him. He didn't really do much for me. And even though he's in form right now, is he any different than Josh Sargent? Is Josh Sargent any different than Ricardo Pepi? These are the guys I trust. Even if it's 1% more, this is what I'm going to go with, right? Because ultimately, it's easy for us to sit right now and go, yeah, I'll take all these guys. But we're watching 90 minutes of a 24-hour day, right? Of a 7-day camp. You and I know how much happens outside of that. People, how they act in the locker room, people, how they act in the meal room, people, how they act in video sessions, who's leaning back, who's sitting back, who's huffing and puffing in the background, who's mad when they get criticized by the coaching staff, who can handle that criticism, what types of egos and personalities. You are building and managing all of that all the time. And we just look at him on the field and go, well, shoot, Ricardo Pepi scoring goals, so of course he should be on the team. And so I wonder what Gregg's actual criteria was for saying this guy's not coming to a World Cup, he's not ready. You know, because that's the one that doesn't make any sense for me.
Like if Ricardo Pepi had stayed at Augsburg and he wasn't scoring and he was still in that same rut that he was since he had made the move over there, everybody would be like, all right.
Yeah.
But he World
moved, Cup in the summer, he went to make the team. And I would have been like, he's not there yet. No problem.
Yeah, right. No problem. He moves. He's proactive and trying to find a better situation. And from what I understand, I thought Gregg was trying to help him make that move and to find a team that would play him and trust him and give him those minutes. And the guy's gone and done what he's needed to do. And not only that, he's doing the little things that we thought that Gregg liked. He's back, he's pressing back behind the ball, or, he's trying to get the defensive mids that like kind of hidden pressure from a striker, maybe poke the ball away. That's led to some good opportunities. He's being advantageous. He's being opportunistic. Hey, by the way, he's taking his chances. Like,
Jimmy,
crazy.
By the way, there is some speculation. Charles Bohms tweeted that there is an injury issue that was taken into contemplation for where Ricardo Pepi is at. So if that is the case, then I don't want to over speculate. We'll see more on how that plays out. But we're seeing this with Luca De La Torre. He's back in training, and Luca De La Torre has played 50 minutes this season, or 60, whatever it is. Don't quote me on the exact number, but less than a total match over the whole season, and is now coming out of an injury where he's starting to involve himself back into training again. Probably has 1 or 2 matches left before he's got to go into camp. Where is his fitness? How do you test that? Again, you can always reverse it. Know. Ricardo Pepi, you could always take him. You can always reverse it. You could always say, hey, he's not good. We need to call in our alternates. And so, yeah, it's I would like to believe it's not. I haven't read anything about Ricardo Pepi leading up to today.
I think what it's going to frustrate fans, and I consider us fans that have some former playing experience, but
and not the other way around.
Yes, we're definitely fans, and I think what's hard sometimes, and I'm glad you brought up the point about that players are being judged and evaluated in almost every facet of how they fit in within the team.
Which made us nervous, by the way. I used to walk on.
Under Bob Bradley for sure.
Yeah, but I used to walk on eggshells, thinking like, dude, am I walking like shoulders up, shoulders back? Like, do I look like? Am I walking that maybe somebody will perceive me as arrogant, or like, am I sitting in my chair in a way that is perceived as like not in on the group? Or I remember getting called out for sitting at too many tables.
I got called out by Bob for sitting at the same table with the same jokers every time. He called them jokers because I was sitting next to Pablo Mastroianni and Matt
Jimmy,
Reeves.
I got the exact opposite. I was like, and I think Charlie got it too, which is like, yo, you're sitting over here with these guys, and the next time you're sitting over there with those guys, like almost like it was like find your tribe type of thing. And I was like, what do you want me to do, man? You want us to but again, not so much about that, but we see things through a very small window of time where, again, you and I have been pissed off after a game. You go into a video session and you're like, I don't want to hear this. And how you react and how you handle those types of things are really important. Again, not to say that that's being played into it, but of course, if you're on their side, you're taking a lot more into account than who are the best 26 players that we have. And then how do we make them a team? You're saying, well, we tried this. We tinkered with that. We don't have the right players for here. Or we don't have the depth. Or I've got this feeling this guy's really ready to do this. Or whatever it could be. There's a million. I'm trying to give as much credit as I can, Jimmy, to the staff, considering this is their 24-hour-a-day job. To analyze this, to watch the players, to scout, to visit, to monitor, to develop the relationships with them, and then to make a final decision. I'm shocked with Shaq Moore. I'm shocked with Christian Roldan because I just thought maybe not. I'm shocked with Jordan Morris, but again, going into the last camp, I started to see maybe Ariola plays a little bit of a role within all of that. But the Ricardo Pepi
I didn't know Ariola was injured, so that's interesting.
The Ricardo, I'd heard that he had left just yesterday. I'd heard. I don't think he left yesterday, but I'd heard yesterday that he had left or gotten injured in this
that's
this sort of off-season camp. But the good thing is to shift it all to the positive. And we can go back to the negative whenever you're ready, because I'm here for that.
Negative sounds really strong and dramatic. I'm feeling more
critical.
I'm kind of more in shock and awe about some of the names that are on this list, given that they weren't even close or even on the tip of most people's tongues